Hey guys, I'm doing something a little bit different today. I went back to the beginning of my videos and I comprised the first 10 racks that I ran, put them together, and I'm gonna do a little voiceover while we watch them. You're probably gonna find some stuff like this going on. So I had that window open in this first rack and it just bleached out the video, so I zoomed in pretty good. This is the only video I ever did that on because I went home and watched it and I was like, oh wow, you can't see the table very good with that blind open. So again, this is the only one that I do that. So I'm going to make a nice shot here, 2 rails. This was an interesting rack. It was a pretty good rack. I was pretty happy with this run out. It wasn't easy. Started off with a combo, then a 2-rail kick in the side, then another combo, then a bank. So yeah, pretty good little run out here. But I think rather than commentating on the shots, which, what is whatever, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about a couple of different aspects of the game. One of them is the physical and the other is the mental. So throughout these 10 racks, I'm just going to try to help people that might be suffering from some of the same types of things that I suffered from for a long time and see if I could expedite that in your game. So starting with the physical, if you watch the way I'm stroking, it looks to me, I don't know if everybody's going to feel the same way, but it's pretty smooth, right? And so I see a lot of guys down at the pool rooms or the pool halls and they're smacking balls around, and what do I mean by that? So if you look at the backswing here, this is going to be a draw shot, so it's not a great example, but your follow through should look the exact same as your strokes. Okay, so I know some people don't stroke anymore, but just assume that you do stroke. Your stroke should not look like that and then come out 10 times faster, right? It should look like that, where it's the same as your strokes. And what that's going to do is that's going to help your control immensely, right? And so that's one of the things about the physical part that I see a lot of people struggling with. The other thing that's physical, it's actually a little bit of a blend because you're using your mind to do it, is it's like an imagination, right? So I'm going to see the 9 ball in the spot, but rather than just hit the spot, I want to see that 9 going in. I want to visualize that shot. And that's really, really important. And I don't think a lot of players are doing that. And that's going to slow you down, You're going to miss things and scratch your head and go, well, I hit it right on the spot. Well, yeah, you did. You hit it right on the spot, but you weren't even looking at the shot, So you have to look at the shot, not just the spot. This is a game of totalities and everything factors in, the speed and the stroke and the table and the cloth and the balls, and you don't have to factor all that in, but you have to envision the shot because your subconscious is going to be able to put those things together for you in a way that your mind simply is not going to be able to keep up, especially in the allotted amount of time that we have to take our shots, right? And if you don't want your opponent to break his cue down and cuss you out and walk away, you're looking at 15, 20 seconds a shot, maybe 30 on a tough one. Then that's it. So your mind is not going to factor in all those different variables, but your subconscious can. And your subconscious is going to look at the totality of the shot, and it's going to put those things together quickly. So see here, I'm looking at the shot line, but I'm also looking at the speed and the shape, and you factor all those things in very, very quickly when you look at the shot itself, not just the line, not just the mark, but the shot. And I'll leave that where that's at. If you can pick up on what I'm putting down, good. And if not, I can't probably help you with that. But so the other thing is that stroke. And the way that you want to accomplish these two things together, this physical part that I'm talking about, is you want to find your center, right? Where you're comfortable with the shot that you're making, rather it goes in or rather it does not. Because you're playing within yourself. You see, and that's one of the things that when I go over into the mental aspect of what I'm talking about here in the game, that's one of the things that you have to come to terms with. You can't force things to go in the hole. It just doesn't work that way. Looks like I have a really beautiful cut shot here on the one ball. See, and that's the way I view that shot, is I don't look at this as a tough shot. I look at this as a beautiful shot. I'm happy to shoot this. This is exactly why I play pool right there. Okay, it was nice and smooth. If you go back and watch that shot again, there was no excessive amounts of energy in that shot. There was no jerky movements in the follow through. I just saw what I needed to do and I tried to let it out smooth. And if it didn't go, it didn't go. And that's it. Okay, now I'm going to talk about something that haunted me for the longest time, right? It's the mental game. And I think there's millions of people that play pool every day, and a good portion of them, probably the majority of them, suffer from, we'll call it mental anxiety, right? When you have mental anxiety in this game, it absolutely destroys every aspect of your game. It encompasses all aspects of your game. And it's a real problem. It was for me for a very long time. And I want to recommend a book that I read by Dr. Zissou. It's called The Confident Mind. And this book is so good that it would literally be impossible to quantify the amount of gems. I mean, this guy is a world-class sports psychologist who's worked with some of the premier athletes on the globe for the past 20 years in all sports, right? Tennis, baseball, basketball. He's worked with Olympic gold medalists, and it's funny because he says in the book, he says, if I had $1 every time someone sat down on my couch or sat in my chair and said, but I was playing so great right up until the time of the match, right? And we've all been there. And I can't count how many times I've been there. And it just baffled me. It absolutely was a head scratcher. I could not figure out why I could go play to my level, to what I saw as fantastic, and then get into a match and just not miss everything. I couldn't even see the shot line 3/4 of the time. And that's what you call mental anxiety. When you go through that, it is torturous. And if I can help anybody, even one person watches this video and can walk away and get anything from that to help better that situation for them, then this video is worth it. Because it tortured me for years and years. Can you imagine being tortured for years? I love this game so much, and I put so much time and energy and effort into this game, and it absolutely tortured me for years. And I did a lot of scouring online. I read a lot of books. I picked out tidbits from everything. I literally scoured the world looking for the information that is in that book. I didn't know about. I don't think that book was even out. I think it was a new release when I found it. And I bought it because I was looking for information. If you suffer from mental anxiety, and you might have a different name for it, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but if your game falls apart during competition, tournaments, if you're in front of a camera, etc., this is the book for you. It's called The Confident Mind. Go get it. I listen to stuff on Audible. I think Audible's amazing. You can do other things while you're listening to your book. The guy's voice that does it is fantastic. It's a very, very easy listen, and it is cram-packed top to bottom with pearls and gems and everything that you need to equip yourself to be able to get through that mental anxiety that you're suffering from. So that's the mental aspect of it. I can tell you personally, for me, that one of the things that he talks about in there, and this was a big one for me personally, and it was actually the most shocking thing, because had you asked me prior, I would have told you I didn't suffer from this at all. But the proof is in the pudding, and clearly I did. But one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people are going to relate to is your ego, right? When you walk into a pool room, you want to be great. You want to play great. You want everybody in there to think you're great. You want your opponent to think you're great. You suffer from ego. That is your ego trying to tell you what a great player you are. Now, what happens when you have ego? If you look at it logistically, what is happening is you are putting expectations on your game, right? So you're not walking in there for the love of the game. You're not walking in there to play the best pool that you can play. You're walking in there so that everybody knows how great you are. You're walking in there so that you can prove to yourself how great you are. That is ego. And that comes equipped with one of the most deadly red pills on the planet, and that is expectations. Expectations, you guys, they ruin everything, right? If I walk up to my wife on a Tuesday and I hand her a single rose, just a rose, she's going to blush and she's going to smile and she's going to say thank you, and that was the sweetest thing, and she's going to text her friends and she's going to love that, okay? Now I want you to take that random Tuesday and turn it into her birthday, right? Her birthday. If I walk up and I hand her a rose on her birthday, a day she's expecting something, and I hand her a single rose, what does she do? She wonders where the rest is. Where's the rest of my roses? Where's my gift? Where's my chocolates? Where's my card? Okay? So you took a very nice act, a very loving act that on any other day would have made her very happy, but on a day she had expectations, she gets mad, right? You cannot have expectations in life over anything. Every day is a blessing. Every time you get to go to a pool table and hit balls is a wonderful experience. And that comes from your ego, right? You wouldn't have expectations if you didn't already think what a great player you were. So you got to check that at the door. When you go into a pool room, there's a fine line between having confidence, and again, this is all in the book. Those were totally my own words. You won't find any of that in the book, but the concept is the same. The principle is there. When you walk into a pool room, there's a fine line between being confident, right? Knowing what you're capable of doing, and having expectations to play great. Because when you expect to play great, I'm telling you right now, 99 out of 100 times you're going to leave disappointed. You might have that one day in there where you actually do play great and you leave and you feel really, really good about that. But 99 out of 100 times, you're not going to live up to what you think your game should be or what you think your game is. Because the one common denominator that I have found with every pool player I've ever known in my life is we all think we're better than we are. Every one of us. There isn't a pool player out there going, well, my Fargo's 633, but I'm really a 575. I just got lucky a bunch of times with these guys. And again, that's a 99 to 1 rule. There might be a guy out there who feels that way, but most of us don't. The majority of us all feel like our Fargos are low and we're better players than we can show, and we don't show up for matches, and we dog the ball that we can make a gajillion times, in a row, and all that stuff. So, and that, in my opinion, that all comes from expectations. So you really want to limit that down to a 0, right? You're not going to get it to a 0, but you get that as low as you can. And the secret for me, when I figured out how to do that, was I stopped associating success with balls pocketed, right? Does that make sense? So if I'm shooting a ball and I miss the ball, that's not what dictates whether or not I enjoyed the shot. That's not what dictates whether or not I enjoyed the match. Did I win or did I lose? Well, that's not what made me happy. That's not what dictated whether or not I enjoyed myself anymore. And so those expectations of having to win to have a good time have been eliminated. And I can't articulate how powerful that was in my game. When I started to finally understand the limitations of happiness through success, the limitations of that, I started to realize that I couldn't associate my happiness with success. So, in other words, if you go to a pool room
back at it, bro,
and you play a match for $100 and you get beat 3-12 and you didn't play your game, that's not the question. It's not the question whether you played your game or not. You did play your game. Okay? The question is did you have a good time? Did you enjoy yourself? Okay? And you can find cross references to that theory in the inner game of tennis. Letting your inner game come out is not always about being a champion. It's about playing up to the ability that you have earned. And if you haven't earned a money match ability, then you shouldn't win. Just because you can bang balls around in mom's basement and you play like God down there, that's not money on the light in a pool room. Okay? So that comes with time, and that comes with practice, just like any other type of situation does. It's funny to me, it's kind of on a side note here, it's funny to me how people want to translate garage pool into pool hall pool. They're not the same. If you go put money on the light with a known hustler and you're like, oh yeah, I broke and ran 3 racks yesterday and I'm doing really good, you're going to more than likely get your brains beat out, okay? Because that guy practices taking people's money. He's not nervous, okay? He's a killer. You're a good player, or you might be a good player, but you're not a killer. All right? You don't get into a war of life and death with a guy who kills for a living, right? That wouldn't make sense. You want to go get into a gunfight with a guy who's a hired hand, you're going to get shot. You're going to get gunned down. Now, if that's something you want to do, you can endeavor in that. You can practice that, but there's no translation there. All right, so going back into the psychological, philosophical part of this game, it's an interesting concept because it sounds really corny. It's kind of like a trope, right? Try to find that calm center inside yourself where anything that happens is okay. Rather you win, rather you lose, rather you show up, rather you don't, rather you play great, rather you play bad. All of that has just went into the realm of it's okay. because my goal is going to be to enjoy myself. There might have been a handful of players in the history of this game that didn't like the game but were good at it and played for a living. Now those guys, I'm going to have to come up with something else for those guys. But for us, we're here because we like the game, because it's enjoyable, because it brings us pleasure. So don't cut yourself short and associate having to win or having to pocket balls to garner the pleasure out of this game that you originally started to play for. It's absolute death to your game. I told my brother here recently, a couple months back, I said, anything extra is a variable, right? It's like putting on a backpack and a pair of dark glasses when you walk into a pool room and playing with the backpack on and a pair of dark glasses. You could still play, but it's going to hinder you in ways that you're not even thinking about, right? It's going to be harder to see the ball. It's going to be harder to stay down on the shot, etc. So anytime you add something to this game, like expectations, it's like putting on a dark pair of glasses. Doesn't mean you can't win. It just is making it much harder for you to see the ball. Okay, so try to go in as light and free and carefree as you possibly can. And it's okay to smile once in a while. I'll tell you a really funny story before I get off here. So I'm down at the pool room, Hard Times in Sacramento, and I'm talking to this guy. He's about a 650 player. He's a great player. And I don't know exactly how the conversation got started, but we have a back room in Hard Times, and it's where all the good players play. They're tight pockets. There's nothing but, I think, 4 1/4 and 1 4-inch. And then if you go out into the large room where there's 30 tables out there or something like that, they're bigger tables for amateur players that come in on the weekends with their girlfriends and they want to play pool. So you got the back room with the good players, and you got the front room with people who are just playing the game, right? Just for fun. And somehow we started talking about it, and I told him, I said, I think I'm going to go trade my cue sticks in for a McDonald's cheeseburger and take up, ice skating. And he smiled, and he goes, yeah, no, I get it, man. I get it. It's rough. And he goes, you want to know how rough it is? He goes, everybody that takes this game seriously stops enjoying the game. He goes, I want you to go out into the front room and look at, there's, Hard Times is always packed. He goes, go out in the front room and look at every single player in there, right? They're all smiling and laughing and joking and having fun. He goes, and then I want you to go into the back room. And he goes, I'll give you $20 if you can find one smile back there. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. He was 100% right. What happens to us as players as we think we're good is we start to take the game more seriously, right? And we stop having fun playing the game. It becomes work, not pleasure. And I walked back after we talked outside, and I walked back there, and you have to walk through the main room to get to the back room. And I took a minute and I looked around, and I saw 25 people in there having the time of their lives, smiling, drinking Cokes, eating fries, literally just having a good time. And I walked into that back room, and it was like there was a funeral going on in there. Let that sink in for a minute. Those guys' happiness is completely dependent on how they're playing. So if you ever see a guy who's a good player and he's smiling and joking around, he's playing good. Because otherwise, he wouldn't be smiling and joking around, right? So just take that into consideration. And
I'm raising kids for over 20 years, so I play when I can, but there was a period of time, probably 5 to 7 years, where I played a lot. I played a lot of pool.
Let myself talk here.
Trying to get back into it. And the point of all that rambling was I've never had a 9-ball break. I have one now. This break is just, whew, I'm in love. I am in love with this break.
Well, I think I'm done. So just take that into consideration. You know, you want to find a calm center inside yourself where you're playing the game for the game's sake. When you first hit a ball, when you were a kid or, you know, last year or whatever it was, and you got that little spark of enjoyment, you got that little drip of dopamine in your brain, don't lose that. Don't let that hinge on whether or not you're playing good. This is such a beautiful game. Pool is one of those highlights that we get to share in this life that should always bring you pleasure. And if you're going to allow that to be stolen by a less than perfect performance, you will never enjoy the game again. You can try and be good, you can exercise, you can practice, you can drill, you can do all that stuff, and you can do it with a smile on your face, happy to be there. It's the two are not unilaterally disassembled, right? You can have those two things simultaneously. And so that's what I would recommend to every pool player as far as the mental game goes, is just remember why you're playing this game. Try to enjoy yourself and have fun. That's what we're playing for. So I'm going to leave that at that, and I think I'm on my second to last rack here. Sitting in the truck in my heater. We got rainy, wintry weather. It's kind of blustery outside, so just thought I'd spend a few minutes and do this quick voiceover on one of my new type of videos. So hopefully I didn't ramble too much. Yep, this is the last rack here. So this is my first 10 racks that I did, and they are pretty cringy. I didn't have a break. I was still using a wooden rack. I was playing with my Q-Tech, I believe, for all 10 racks. I hadn't got my McDermott in yet. But you know, it's a process. This game's a process, and we learn as we go. That's what I'm doing here with these YouTube videos, is I'm just learning as I go. I think they'll be interesting to go back in years past where I can see how much progression I've had. I can tell you, I'm pretty sure I've had quite a bit of progression just in this last year playing on this game. You know, I never played pool to compete. I played pool because I was fascinated by the game. And once you add in competition, it just changes everything. You know, now you're playing to be better than somebody else. and that makes things a lot less enjoyable. I think what we should all strive to do is play to be better than we were the day before, right? Not be better than the guy next to you, but be better than the guy that you were the previous day. Learn as much as you can when you're on the table, and for the love of God, enjoy yourself while you're doing it. All right, guys, peace out.